Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
And our next session is the Youth Empowerment and Education session. And with us today, we're going to have Emily, Cade, Luca, and Pix. So I'll read their bios as each of them come on. We start with a section where we hear from each of our speakers for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then that's followed by a panel with all four speakers. So stay with us as we delve into youth empowerment and education. And I'd love to acknowledge now our first speaker, Emily Nemeth. And a little bit about Emily. At a young age, Emily received her diploma in childcare with a dream of serving the future through education, especially the younger generation, as those first few years are foundation for future. Emily moved on, wanting to understand the mind and understand life, which took her on a journey into learning psychology at Macquarie University. Yet there was a deeper calling to look into meditation and yoga, which took Emily into an intensive practices in Australia, India, and in different techniques, including Kundalini, dynamic meditation, Hatha yoga, and Vipassana, with qualifications to teach, plus exploring many more techniques. The two callings of education and self-awareness came together with a clear mind for life program of children in schools to learn about meditation and different techniques to connect with emotions and understand how their brain works. Emily is now a mother of her 3-year-old son and learning through the experiences that motherhood is presenting. We'd love to welcome Emily to the virtual stage, we can say. Welcome, Emily.
Hi there. Sorry, I've got someone constantly trying to call me for some reason, so I've been blocking in and out. Hi, thank you so much, Geraldine, for inviting me in and just holding such a wonderful space throughout this whole program. So a huge thank you. Wow, what a big topic empowerment and education is. It's such a tender and very fundamental space to be talking about, because it really is such an opportunity for us to start fresh, to change the future through the next generation, and create all of that we're unraveling of our own selves, and allowing that to really be shining through our youth. So I just wanted to have a little bit of a talk about my life and what I have experienced in my life so far in this human realm. So I guess through my experience of education, I didn't really have a very supportive, strong education on my beingness. I was really pushed to fit into a like a peg in a hole, a square peg in a hole. It was quite difficult for me to relate to education and really be fully present within the education system that I had here in Australia. I was in a private school. So I left very early on, and I actually felt into myself of where I felt that I could make a difference, or what really wanted to be met inside of myself. And that was to support children in their education in a way that I didn't feel that I was being supported. And so I went on this journey of getting into childcare and understanding and the process of the mental aspects of our children and our education and growing and absorbing. Sorry, I've just got a car that's all of a sudden pulling up. Yes, so I started to step into childcare. And once again, I fell into this sort of systematic process that wasn't really allowing me to think for myself, and to really express myself in such fullness. And it was more just this dotting the I's and crossing the T's sort of situation. And so I started to look deeper into, okay, well, I need more substance here. There needs to be more. There's something inside of me that is really, really calling for depth. How can I really support these children when I can't really support myself? So I started to go on a journey in psychology and wanting to look more around the mind and how the mind works, and to understand myself, to be able to understand myself, to then be able to understand and help others. And even then I found myself back in a system that was very much rigid and structured, that didn't allow me to have the exploration, have that real, what would be the word, the real authenticity of understanding self. It was just this mental sort of searching to figure it out. And so then I discovered spirituality, and I discovered meditation and yoga, and it became a huge part of my life. I totally threw myself into into this world of self-inquiry and self-discovery, and really actually not looking external from myself to find self, but actually starting to go inward and look at the different things, or just bring into the awareness of the different layers that my reality was built up on, and then slowly then coming back to this one pointed mark of self, of awareness. So throughout this journey, I then became a mother, which has been my greatest teaching of all time. My absolute greatest teaching of all time. It's been the toughest, but the greatest, of really putting me into a space of now stepping out of the safety of the techniques, stepping out of the safety of the ashram, and stepping into the general everyday life, which my son has really brought about. And it started even prior to his birth, of bringing his energy in and actually hearing his soul and communicating with his soul, and bringing that soul into this physical body, and then the processes that have gone after that, and just this magical witnessing of being a mother and having that unfold. So I think the biggest thing for me as a mother that I've really experienced through education is the dissolving of information, dissolving of these structures that I felt like I had dissolved a lot through my meditations, and I feel like that was definitely a part of the process and start of it. But my son really brought about, hey, here you are with this unknown situation, this what's the word, this sort of unseen space that you don't really know about, and you can throw yourself back into the system again and do the same routines of mindlessly just giving my power away to things that I don't really trust, but just because I don't know and I can't step forward into that unknowingness, just to keep on going in that system again. And it brought me to a point of having to really dissolve my reality of what I had created or what society had created for me throughout my life of you eat at this time, you do this at this time, you grow up, you get a job, you buy a house, you have a family. And it was like this pinnacle moment of really having to dissolve all of that and start at where all my meditation, where all my techniques had brought me to, into self, and move from a space of spontaneity, moving from a space of creativity, of freshness, of newness, of possibility, on what is possible, what if I really listen deeply on what is wanting to be met and felt and experienced in this moment, when it comes to even prior to having my son, and then all my way through his pregnancy and after, what is really wanting to be met here? And how best can I meet that without this fighting with the system? And so I ended up having the most amazing pregnancy and birth. I traveled the world and I did things that I felt were mentally in my mind totally impossible, but they very much were possible. And so when my beautiful son came into the world, he changed my whole life again. of seeing how natural his grace, his self, his inner God was, and how precious that really is. I don't think that I really, throughout the previous part of my life, I really had seen this aspect within children, that we are so drawn to children because of the fact that they already have it. They already have that shining light, that inner guru. They have that spontaneity. They have that creativity. They have that passion to create and do new without having to untangle all the stuff that they have learned, because they're so new. And so it is such an important time prior to birth, pregnancy, after birth, and continuous on what education is, and dissolving this idea of education, seeing it as in a classroom with a teacher and being told a structural system, seeing this education as life, as our interaction, our relationship, our sensory experience with life. And how can we best nurture that in schools? Because school is not, I don't want to put a negative around schools, because they're very necessary, particularly in this journey that we're taking into our evolution of consciousness. But right now is a time where so many structures are being dissolved, that it is such a beautiful opportunity to be able to start new creations and to hold a space that can allow for this evolution to happen, which is happening naturally anyway, which is really beautiful. So when it comes to schools, I'm already seeing a lot of change within schools that are happening. It's been a big fear of mine, actually, on this next stage for my son, because he is 3 and he's sort of going into that level of having to go to school. And I guess it's been a really tender and fragile process on how to best meet this, because it's his journey, and finding the best balance. So I've looked at so many different possibilities. It sort of brought me back into a space of, okay, as my inner child, what's possible? What would I want as an education? And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, what if we gave this to children? What if we actually gave this opportunity to children for them to create their own education, to have more of a say in their own education on what could be possible? Like, let our imagination run of the possibilities of how we can relate to wisdom, not just information. And as a schooling sort of holding of that, how can we best nurture that which is already there? How can we best nurture the innate self which is in all of us? Because it's not so much of a teaching. You know, we don't need to teach each other to be connected. We are connected. We don't need to teach how to love. We are love. And if we are able to hold that and nurture that and hold healthy boundaries to support that within our children, rather than strip them away and make a very rigid situation of, no, sit down, don't do this. Yes, this is happening. No, that's not happening. You know, how can we don't need to self-empower them, because they are being self-empowered by being themselves. Yeah. So if we can nurture that the best that we possibly can, then it allows our children to really take a stand and a step forward into taking the future into its next transformational state, into caring more for nature, caring more for each other. Like I said, it's not something that really needs to be taught. It's actually something that needs to be nurtured, that's already within us. So yeah, I feel it's just been the most beautiful thing to have my wonderful son in my life to really show this, not just in children and really but within myself, of this spontaneity, this innocence that is so naturally gifted to all of us, and just how best we can possibly bring that back into our general system is a big deal. I don't know, have I gone over time?
You are absolutely perfect time, Emily.
Oh.
That's a beautiful place for concluding. But if you have anything you want to add now, and then there's definitely plenty of time during the panel as well.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say a huge thank you to you, because I know you have been doing so much work behind the scenes and everything to bring this all together. It's such a important thing to have this at this time unfolding, and being able to facilitate in that is just a big deal. So thank you so much.
You're right. It's a beautiful thing that's come together. And I think the whole Global Transformation Festival is an example of what everyone's bringing with the sharing that every person's doing, because it is absolutely a collection, way back to 2009, so 2009 with Dr. Yugandhar's group in India, with a global parliament on bringing people together, and then each year, and then going online and reaching many due to the pandemic. So there are these things that evolve and grow, and now here we are. And again, this is a beginning. And for those who are watching on the live stream, this is more than an event. That's why we called it a festival. It's joyful, and at festivals you make connections, you keep up with people, they're there, you learn new things, you get experience to things you didn't think you didn't know. So that's the idea here. And as per the title with your talk, the potential of transforming the reality of education. There are many people who will listen to this there's people I know who will be nodding. And I know that through this, there's an increase in strength and the power to hear what you've said. And there's been a number of times I felt those tingles, the truth tingles when something's said and it resonates. So may that tingling reach, globally, and we see more, because there are examples already. that are in alignment, you know, at least to some extent with what you're saying. So now it's really time to bring that into a much greater being, a critical mass of a beautiful potential for transforming the reality of education.
Yeah, well, it's such a lovely thing, because it is something that is, I guess, I mean, life is wanting to express itself in so many different ways, and it is expressing itself in so many different ways, particularly right now with these dissolving of old things. So much different new things are coming up, and that's why this festival is so on point of timing. It's just perfect.
Wonderful. And I look really forward to listening to the panel with yourself and our other speakers in this session.